Come on. Let's see it go. Let's go. We're going to put up a big fight. Let's go, laddie. Come on.
What's up, guys? I'm Alex.
I'm Jason. We're the Table Monkeys, and we're here with another video talking about the dark horse, the damn PEDs.
Damn, are we talking about that again?
Again, we got to talk about it. And
but it gets the views, right?
Yeah, I think it does. I don't know. People like it. People hate it. It's controversial. Everybody talks about it. We're not really talking about PEDs in arm wrestling necessarily. We want to talk about a video that Larry Wheels put out. Shout out to Larry Wheels, because not only is he a strong motherfucker, he is keeping arm wrestling going like no other.
King of Table 4 coming up soon.
Exactly.
Less than 3 weeks.
The biggest goddamn match ever.
Ever.
Anyway, one of the things the thing that he just put a video out about is in reference to, you may have seen, may not have seen, his deadlift PR.
Focus. This is yours for the taking. Let's go. Let's go. We're going to put up a big fight. Come on. This is yours. Let's go, laddie. Come on. Yes. Good. And again, let's go. Let's go. Come on. Fire. Good. Yes. Easy. Good job. Yes. Come on. Finish it. Yes, laddie. Good job, mate. Fucking fantastic. Yeah, laddie. Good job, mate.
What is 930 pounds?
925 for a triple.
925 for a triple. Yeah.
Maybe wrong, but I think
it was 925 or 930. It was one of those two, but it was for a triple. It was madness, and I think the last time he pulled that much, he pulled it for a single.
Yeah.
And that was like 2 years ago. So crazy awesome PR, and he wanted to talk about the PED approach to it, because it was a lot different than what he would have done before, and what a lot of people that would normally, like the more conventional way of doing it. And it's very similar to some of the stuff that we've talked about, or that I've kind of preached, that I am trying to approach it from this sort of method a little bit more, just from the research I've done from guys like Vigorous Steve. Shout out to Vigorous Steve and Leo Longevity, and obviously Derek from More Plates, More Dates. Those three guys are definitely keystones for me in figuring this whole world out a little bit. But the main thing that he talks about is the idea of doing, so originally, or the conventional way would be, you pick the compounds that you want to use, and then you basically blast them all for a duration, 8 weeks, maybe 12 weeks, to get to your final goal and make your PR. In doing this, doing all the compounds for this long, you're going to suffer all the side effects. You're going to have all the detrimental effects from them, and also you're going to sort of push yourself maybe past a point that's like safe, or that you're actually capable of. And one of the issues that Larry's had in the past is, suffering injuries on his way through a prep, because all these compounds are working so well, and he's getting so strong so fast. And each week he's ready to blast through another
like he's peaking
plateau.
every week.
Exactly, and blast through another plateau. And the approach that he took for this last PR was to use, say, like an elevated TRT dose. So he didn't get into specific compounds and stuff, but he said for that elevated TRT dose, it was basically just testosterone. So I don't know if he was also taking GH, or if he was taking some other like lighter anabolics like Primo, or a small dose of Anavar or something like that. But if you look at TRT clinics and like what they prescribe, something with a balance of those things on a low dose, lowest effective dose range would be what I would consider like your elevated TRT. So either
your bodybuilder cruise.
Yeah, your bodybuilder cruise, exactly. So either like a higher dose of test than what you would get on TRT. So again, that might be like maybe the max that you would get is 250, like to be considered on TRT, depending on how you respond to it. So you might be in that case taking like 500 or 600. So you're not blasting like a whole gram or a gram and a half, but you're taking more than enough to get a serious effect. And if you look at the research, which is I'm sure Derek will end up doing a video explaining this, and he has a video where he talks about the difference between the different dosages. And basically when you go from like on that chart, when you go from 300 milligrams a week to 600 milligrams a week, there's a very noticeable difference in muscle mass and strength and actual progress and improvement in performance. But if you go from 600 to 1200, that increase is not nearly the same. Like you get to a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the point is like take the lowest high effective dose. Like we want to maximize the effect, but we want to take the lowest dose we can before we start getting diminishing returns, where like,
because you're still going to get double the side effects.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You're not going to get double the gains, but you'll still get double the side effects.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's more so, again, kind of what Larry talks about a little bit, but that's more so the science behind it, is that there's definitely Greg actually breaks it down a little bit more, and he talks about Derek's video with this study that they did. So anyway, could be that, or it could be like your slightly elevated testosterone with a little sprinkling of some other things, again at a lowest effective dose. So like GH is a bioidentical hormone, so if you're not taking like 10 IUs a day, that would be like if you're in a more reasonable range, like 1 to 3 IUs a day, that's more like replacement therapy, maybe a little elevated. So the point is you ride that for the entirety of your cycle, and then at the very end of the week of the competition, you blast the harder things with the fast-acting esters and stuff.
Right.
So that would be like your orals, your Tren Ace, maybe your Test Prop, like if you're gonna increase the testosterone a lot, stuff like that. And it's just for that 1 week of the competition, right? And again, this is something that I've preached a lot. Other people have talked about with arm wrestling not wanting to get a pump. So one of the other sort of theories was to actually drop a lot of stuff out, like use shorter acting compounds closer to the meat and then drop them down so that you're at like just TRT level, like what you would be prescribed. So you're like in the middle of the reference range. You're not going to get like a crazy pump, all that kind of stuff. Maybe take some orals right before the comp to get yourself like fired up to do it. And I just want to talk a little bit in reference to Larry's video and also my own personal experience now with the last 2 big competitions that I did, because I took both those separate approaches.
Right.
For Ian, I went in and I really wanted to try that, dropping it out, because I thought that if I was in the match with Ian, it was going to come down to endurance. And I thought if I blow up trying to hold him up in a King's move, that could be like my demise. So I thought that it was the right time to try the switching to quicker esters, dropping out the dosages. So I was on a much lower dose for the week of, and then just some orals the day before and day of. So there's a little bit of saturation, but not a ton. So there's not a huge amount of nitrogen retention. So again, I don't get a crazy pump. As far as the pump went, it worked for the competition, for the after pulling. The pump felt good. But I felt like I was missing a little edge, because the last couple comps before this, I've done more of the doubling everything the week of, and the orals, adding the orals in the week of and everything. So the day of the meet, I'm fully saturated and ready to go. Pump definitely way worse, but drive on the table, focus, initial strength, power, and all that felt different. Yeah. So Ian was 2 weeks out from provincials, right? So basically, right after Ian, I was on about 250 a week for the week of Ian, testosterone, just testosterone, and then I took some Anadrol and some Anavar for orals right before the competition. Then basically increased the testosterone to 350 for the week right after Ian, which is my normal cruising level that I've been on for a while now. And then the week of provincials added the Prop like I'd done before at 350. So that brought me up to 700 test for the week of the competition. I did actually try a little bit of the trenbolone sandwiches.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we tested a little bit of that, did a very small...
Super not natty now.
Super not natty now, yeah. Did a very small 30 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So totals 90 milligrams for the week, which dosage wise is nothing crazy, but definitely felt it. Trinase is definitely something different. We can talk about that, and can definitely see where abusing it can be really, really bad.
Yeah.
And then NPP, just 30 milligrams every other day. So that was that's again works out to 90 for the week beforehand, and that's again such a small dose that it's not gonna blow me up. It's not gonna give me any kind of real negative effects or anything, but it will give. I do feel it in my joints a bit, like the juiciness and like the kind of comfort level, and there's probably a little bit of strength gain from it too. And then the orals, 3 days out, adding in Anadrol and Anavar and just titrating it up. And then the day of, a healthy dose of both. And I definitely felt better at provincials than I did for Ian. Again, I still got crushed by the higher level competition like Pork Chop, which based on how Pork Chop and Ian felt, I think that match is a lot closer than it was the last time they pulled, but I would still give the edge to Pork Chop. But not by a ton, which the last time they pulled it looked pretty far apart.
Right, but the point is you did a bunch of new drugs on the week of, even added Tren and a lot of orals, but you didn't sustain any of the side effects from those drugs because it was only a week of.
Yeah, and it was only yeah, exactly, and I didn't. I don't plan to, and I won't. I mean, who knows what can happen? I'm not going to say never because that's setting yourself up for being a liar. But I definitely don't plan to use things like Tren or Anadrol for extended periods of time.
Right.
And even the orals, like other than a very small dose of Anavar for a few weeks at a time, I try to stay away from the orals for the most part. I'm not on any GH or anything right now, so I definitely will be, and we'll add that again at some point.
Yeah.
Because the synergy between that and the test, that was definitely something that was really effective.
Yeah. But just to comparing the two protocols, should you worry too much about the pump as an arm wrestler?
Yeah,
Should you
to make it arm wrestling?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Is it more important to be as strong as possible?
Right.
Or does the pump matter? Do you want to have more endurance?
Right. So, I mean, we all know about pancakes, but either way, I was talking to somebody about that at the Ian match and saying, I thought about this method and I heard Brandon Allen talk about doing it this way and everything, so I thought I would try that because what I just said, I thought if I got in the match, it was going to come down to endurance, etc., etc. And this rather large individual said to me, he said, I've heard that and I've thought about that too, but have you ever heard any of the real top arm wrestlers complain about the pump? Like John never complains about it. Michael Todd says he adjusts his training because people would say, oh, you lose because of a pump, but he never complains. If he loses a match, it's never like, oh, I got pumped up and I lost. Like that's never what he says. Todd Hutchings has never said that. Like anybody who's a good level arm wrestler, after they lose a match, when was the last time you heard them say it was because I got a pump? It's actually not. And his point was because they all understand how important this is in an arm wrestling match. That initial fraction of movement, and if you don't have enough to get here, the pump, all that stuff isn't going to matter at all. So that's what made me kind of rethink it, and just kind of coincidental that I just did that, experimented with it. Definitely 100% prefer the short blast right before, where with Ian I was doing more for like an extended period of time and then dropped off, right? Like I was doing Primo at a pretty high level. I was doing my 350 test, plus I was doing MPP the whole time, and then dropped out the Primo, the MPP, and dropped the test down. And didn't feel as good as doing just tests for, which I've done before, and I will do. That's going to be the protocol moving towards arm melter as well, is just to do a little bit elevated. So I'll be doing some Primo and some NPP and test, but at a lower dose than what I was doing before Ian, and then blasting a little bit harder right before anyway.
Yeah.
definitely think it's definitely a safer way to do it, and none of it's safe. We don't condone any of this.
No.
You shouldn't do any of this. If you don't do it, don't do it. But if you do it, there's, you know, always good to be as informed as possible and think about the safest route.
Yeah,
you know.
And it may just be the smartest route.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the video. Ended up being a little longer than we planned, but
Like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that bell.
all of those things, and
Monkeys out.
peace.